Okay, let's talk breathing. So it is certainly not by accident that breathing is one of the most important principles in Pilates. He understood how deep and full breathing is absolutely vital for our health. So what's the big deal, you might say? We breathe all the time. What's there to learn? Well, bear with me. I don't want to turn this too much into an anatomy lesson, I promise. But it really helps to understand some of the basic mechanics of what is involved in the process of breathing. And rather than talking about oxygenation, carbon dioxide, what the cells need, etc., I want to approach this more from a muscular perspective to keep it practical for us. So we have to talk about primary and secondary breathing muscles and what their roles within the context of breathing are. The primary breathing muscles are the diaphragm, which is the most important one, all of our abdominals, and the little intercostals, the muscles between the ribs. The secondary breathing muscles are the upper chest, neck, and upper back muscles. The important thing to remember is that the primary breathing muscles should do the major bulk of the work in breathing, whereas the secondary breathing muscles just have an assisting role. Now, often in our modern lifestyle, we reverse these roles, and that really isn't good for our health at all. Those poor little muscles up here were not designed to work that hard. So if you feel tight and sore in your shoulders and neck, that might not just be a postural issue, it might well also be a breathing issue. Let's talk about the diaphragm. The diaphragm sits here. It's a double dome shape structure going up inside the rib cage. It's attached right to the base of the breastbone here in the front, going all the way around in the ribs. So you can kind of picture that sitting right inside there on both sides. It separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. So you have the heart and the lungs above, and the abdominal organs like liver, spleen, kidneys, etc., as well as the stomach, underneath the diaphragm. So the diaphragm has a central tendon that goes all the way down to the lumbar vertebrae. So you can start seeing how massive this structure really is. When we allow the diaphragm to move fully, it literally massages our organs. So ideally, on inhalation, the diaphragm moves downwards and outwards. The belly expands and the ribs widen. On the exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes, moving back up. The abdominals contract gently and naturally, and the ribs come back in. So, why is that not happening for so many of us? What is going on? Well, there is our modern fast-paced lifestyle, and being in a rush all the time isn't really conducive to full breathing. But also, there are a couple of persistent myths out there which I want to debunk once and for all. I really don't ever want to have to read again how you have to hold your tummy in all the time to protect your back, or how you have to hold your tummy in to get a flat stomach. And by the way, the stomach is right up here, not down there. Or worse, how you should draw in your abdominals when you breathe in. I don't really want to ever have to read that again. Let's get one thing clear. Permanent contraction of the abdominal muscles is not necessary for a flat abdomen. I can promise you that. Nor does it help lower back pain. Quite the opposite. It makes your lower back tight and immobile. Of course, strong abdominals help stabilize the lower back, and nobody is talking about letting it all hang out. But what the spine needs more than anything else to stay healthy is movement. Creating space through stretching and strengthening, contraction and release of all muscles. Permanently holding on to muscles, or for that matter anything else in your life, does not create health, ease, flow or happiness. We need the eternal rhythm of contraction and release, holding and letting go. Now here's something else I wanted to talk about. The terrible habit of holding your breath. Unless you are doing it for a very good reason, like diving down to the bottom of the swimming pool or some advanced yogic breathing exercises, holding your breath after inhaling is a bad idea. In the natural rhythm of relaxed breathing, the inhale flows into the exhale without stopping or breath holding. Now, after the exhale, there is a little pause before taking another breath in. That little pause is quite calming and space creating. Pilates knew that after allowing yourself to exhale fully and completely, you take a deeper and more satisfying breath in. So let's do a little experiment. Find a comfortable position. Imagine your trunk is a big jug you want to fill with water. As you breathe in, the air becomes your water and you are filling the jug from the bottom up. And it's easy, no straining, no forcing. As soon as the jug is filled, you pour the water back out, nice and easy again, there's no rush. See how that feels. So I'll try and demonstrate, and I'll have to stop talking for a minute. So let's take just exhale completely to start, then breathing in from the bottom up. And flowing straight into the exhale. Pause, breathing in. Okay, quite expansive, quite nice. So let's see, for those of you who might still believe in holding your tummy muscles in, try this now. If you know how, really pull the pelvic floor up now as strongly as you can and pull those abdominal muscles in as much as possible and hold it there. And now try and take a deep breath and see how that feels. Isn't that horrible? Doesn't that feel really constrained? The poor diaphragm doesn't stand a chance. Now there is a way around that where we can, in abdominal exercises, where we can keep some of the abdominals contracted during inhaling and exhaling, but we'll get to that a little bit later. First, I would like to read you a paragraph from Donna Farhi's The Breathing Book, Good Health and Vitality Through Essential Breathwork. A really brilliant book, by the way, so if you do want to dive any deeper into this topic, I highly recommend it. Okay, now Donna Farhi describes in her book how apart from our main diaphragm, our primary diaphragm, we also have a couple more diaphragms in our body. The pelvic floor, she calls the pelvic diaphragm, and there's also the vocal diaphragm, and they are actually involved in breathing as well. They kind of open and contract and etc. and that sort of thing. So here is what she says. When the abdomen is chronically tightened and pulled inward and upward, as is so common in Westerners, the pelvic diaphragm is also held in a state of chronic contraction. The anal sphincter muscles become tight and are pulled in and up, giving new meaning to the expression, a tight ass. Always love that bit. Now, later on she says, when the pelvic diaphragm is upwardly inverted all the time, a curious phenomenon takes place. Since the primary diaphragm is unable to complete its downward excursions, the secondary respiratory muscles are required to take over the work of the diaphragm. Using these muscles to breathe deeply is rather like using a fork to dig a hole. It's very tiring and very ineffective. So, if you don't believe me, believe Donna. Of course, there is no one right way to breathe, as Donna Farhi notes in her book. The best way to breathe is the way that supports the activity that you are doing. Which finally leads me to, so how do we breathe during Pilates exercises, particularly during all those abdominal exercises where we keep the abdominals contracted during the inhale as well as the exhale? Well, We still want to use the diaphragm and we still want to breathe as deeply as possible. The way to do that is lateral breathing. When you watch your baby breathe, you can see their little rib cages moving out and in. And remember when we talked about the diaphragm earlier, how it is attached to the ribs and how the intercostals are also primary breathing muscles. So basically we want to send the air sideways and also into the back, so keeping it quite three-dimensionally. And for the purpose of abdominal exercising, this actually works really well. In Pilates, we tend to breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. Now, for those of you who are habitually shallow upper chest breathers, to then start breathing deeply can make you feel a little lightheaded in the beginning. It's nothing to worry about, just be aware of it. So let's get practicing. A good way to practice lateral breathing is with a TheraBand, elastic band or a scarf or anything like that. If you bring the band around your ribs like so, and then you literally want to breathe into the band here, so you want to stretch the band or breathing against the scarf or whatever you have handy, breathing in and blow. Breathing in, etc., etc. So you can practice. Another good way to practice lateral breathing is lying down in your constructive rest position. Bring your hands around your ribs like so, around those lower ribs, and breathing into the hands and into the bed. So really allow those ribs to move freely here, breathing in. Exhale, breathing in.